The research station orbiting Kepler 442b hummed with the quiet efficiency of advanced alien technology. Queen Zarathul of the Vorthak Empire stood before the massive viewing portal, her 6 eyes focused on the blue-green planet below. Her crystalline exoskeleton caught the light from the nearby star, casting rainbow patterns across the sterile white walls of the observation deck. "Your Majesty," came the voice of her chief scientist, Dr. Veltan, his forearms gesturing toward a holographic display. "The specimens from the 3rd planet in the Sol system have arrived." Zarathul turned, her movements graceful despite her imposing 8-foot frame. The Vorthak had been collecting specimens from across the galaxy for centuries, building the most comprehensive biological database in known space. Earth, or Terra as they called it, had been flagged as a planet of particular interest due to its remarkable biodiversity. "Show me," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who ruled over 17 star systems. The hologram flickered to life, displaying a containment bay 3 levels below. Inside the sterile chamber, dozens of creatures from Earth moved about in carefully constructed habitats. Dr. Veltan manipulated the display, zooming in on various specimens. "We have successfully collected representatives from most major species groups," he reported. "Felines, canines, various reptiles, amphibians, and several primate species. However, there is one specimen that has been problematic." The display shifted to show a separate containment unit, smaller and more heavily reinforced than the others. Inside, a massive silverback gorilla sat hunched in the corner, his breathing labored and his once magnificent coat now patchy and dull. Angry red welts covered his exposed skin and one arm hung at an odd angle. "This is specimen designation Terra Prime 47, Dr. Veltan continued, a male of the species Gorilla Berengay. During capture, he sustained injuries and has since developed what appears to be a severe allergic reaction to our standard atmospheric blend." Queen Zarathul studied the creature with interest. Even in his weakened state, she could see the intelligence in his dark eyes, the way he tracked movement outside his cell with careful attention. "What have you done to treat him?" "We have administered our standard medical protocols, but his physiology is resistant. Dr. Hixnar from the medical bay believes the creature will not survive much longer. The infection has spread and his immune system appears to be failing." The Queen's antennae twitched, a sign of contemplation among her species. "And the recommendation?" "Immediate termination and preservation for study. We can learn much from his remains, and it would be merciful." Zarathul watched as the gorilla slowly lifted his head, those intelligent eyes seeming to meet hers across the vast distance. For a moment she felt something unexpected, a connection to this alien creature from a world so far from her own. "No," she said finally. "Transfer him to the primary medical bay. I want our best xenobiologist working on this." Dr. Veltan's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion. "Your Majesty, with respect, the resources required to save one specimen when we have so many others. Are you questioning my judgment, Doctor?" The Queen's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Of course not, Your Majesty. I simply wonder if there might be better uses for our—" "The creature stays alive. Find a way." She turned back to the viewing portal, effectively dismissing him. Dr. Veltan bowed low and departed, leaving the Queen alone with her thoughts. She couldn't explain why this particular specimen had caught her attention. Perhaps it was the defiance she saw in his posture, even while suffering. Perhaps it was the way he had fought during capture, protecting the smaller primates that had been taken with him. Hours passed as the Queen remained at the portal, watching the planet below slowly rotate. The research station was a marvel of Vorthak engineering, capable of supporting hundreds of different atmospheric compositions and gravity levels simultaneously. It was designed to be the perfect neutral environment for studying alien life. But sometimes, the Queen reflected, perfection wasn't enough. A soft chime indicated an incoming communication. "Your Majesty," came the voice of her personal aide, Kithara. "Dr. Hixnar from Medical Requests and Audience. It concerns the Terran specimen. Send him up." Dr. Hixnar was older than most Vorthak, his exoskeleton bearing the characteristic scarring that came with age. He had served the royal family for over 3 centuries and was perhaps the most respected xenobiologist in the Empire. "Your Majesty," he began, bowing respectfully, "I have examined the creature as you requested. The prognoses were dire. Explain. The specimen appears to be suffering from multiple cascading system failures. The atmospheric composition that is perfectly safe for most carbon-based life forms is causing severe respiratory distress. His injured arm has developed a secondary infection that our standard antibiotics cannot combat. Most critically, his neurochemistry suggests severe psychological trauma. The Queen's antennae drooped slightly.
Can he be saved?
Not with our current protocols. His biology is far more complex than we initially assessed. Terran primates, it seems, require very specific environmental conditions and have emotional needs that we do not fully understand. What would it take? Dr. HFY hesitated. We would need to completely redesign his habitat to match Terran conditions exactly. Earth-normal atmosphere, gravity, temperature, and humidity. We would need to synthesize foods that his digestive system can process. Most challenging of all, we would need to address his psychological state. Our scans suggest that Terran primates are highly social creatures. This one is dying as much from isolation as from his physical ailments. Queen Zarathul considered this. The cost would be enormous, requiring resources that could fund entire research programs. Her advisors would certainly object. Do it, she said. Your Majesty? I said do it. Whatever resources you need, you have them. But I want that creature healthy. Dr. HFY bowed deeply. It will be done, Your Majesty. Though I must ask, why? What makes this one specimen worth such an investment? The Queen was quiet for a long moment, watching the stars beyond the portal. Perhaps because no one else will fight for him, she said finally. And sometimes, Doctor, the most important discoveries come from the subjects everyone else has given up on. The transformation of Containment Bay 7 took 18 standard cycles to complete. Dr. HFY worked around the clock with his team, completely rebuilding the environment from the ground up. They replaced the standard atmospheric processors with a custom system that could replicate Earth's exact oxygen-nitrogen mixture. The gravity generators were recalibrated to match Terra's 9.8 meters per second squared. Even the lighting was adjusted to mimic the spectrum of Sol, Earth's yellow star. Queen Zarathul visited the construction site daily, much to the bewilderment of her staff. It was unprecedented for royalty to take such personal interest in a single research specimen. Palace rumors suggested everything from the Queen having developed an obsession to theories about the gorilla possessing some unknown strategic value. The atmospheric conversion is complete. Your Majesty, reported Engineer Telvar, her multiple limbs operating several control interfaces simultaneously. We've also installed a water feature that mimics the natural streams found in the specimen's native habitat. The Queen watched through the observation window as the final touches were added to what now looked more like a piece of Earth than an alien laboratory. Lush vegetation, carefully cultivated from genetic samples, covered the floor and walls. A small waterfall cascaded into a clear pool. The space was large enough for the gorilla to move freely, unlike the cramped medical bay where he currently resided. What of his physical condition? The Queen asked Dr. HFY, who stood beside her reviewing his latest medical scans. Improving, but slowly. We have synthesized medications based on Terran biochemistry, rather than our standard treatments. The respiratory infection is clearing, and we have successfully set his broken arm using techniques derived from Terran medical databases. However, he paused, his facial tentacles curling with concern. However, the psychological damage may be irreversible. Our neural scans show patterns consistent with severe depression and trauma. He has not eaten in 3 cycles and responds to no external stimuli. In Terran terms, I believe he has simply given up. Queen Zarathul studied the readings herself. Despite her royal education in xenobiology, the complex neural patterns of Terran mammals were unlike anything in her experience. You mentioned social needs, explain. Terran gorillas live in complex family groups. They form strong emotional bonds, communicate through elaborate systems of gestures and vocalizations, and require constant social interaction for psychological health. This specimen was separated not just from his planet, but from his family unit. In effect, we have condemned him to solitary confinement. Then give him companionship. Dr. HFY's eyes widened. Your Majesty, we only captured 1 adult male gorilla. The other primates we collected are from different species entirely. They would not provide adequate social stimulation. The Queen was quiet for a moment, then did something that shocked everyone present. She activated the communication system connected to the medical bay where the gorilla was being held. Open a visual connection, she commanded. The main display flickered to life, showing the gorilla lying on his side on the medical platform. His breathing was shallow and his eyes were closed. Even with the improved treatments, he looked far worse than when he had first arrived. Specimen Terra Prime 47, the Queen said through the communication system. The gorilla's eyes opened slowly. He raised his head with obvious effort and looked directly at the camera. For a moment, their eyes met across the digital connection. I know you can hear me, the Queen continued. I know you understand more than my scientists believe. Dr. HFY looked at her with alarm. Your Majesty, there is no evidence that the specimen comprehends our language. Isn't there? She gestured to the screen. The gorilla had sat up and was watching the camera intently. Look at his posture. He knows someone is speaking to him. Indeed, the gorilla's behavior had changed dramatically. He was alert, focused, and for the first time since his capture, seemed engaged with his environment. My name is Zarathul, the Queen continued. I am responsible for bringing you here. I know you are in pain. I know you are alone, but I want you to know that someone is fighting for you. The gorilla tilted his head, a gesture that seemed almost human in its curiosity. We are preparing a new home for you, a place that will remind you of your own world. You will have space to move, clean air to breathe in. She paused, making a decision that would change everything. You will have a friend. Dr. HFY stepped forward urgently. Your Majesty, surely you don't mean... I will visit you myself, the Queen announced. Daily, until you are well. The reaction from her staff was immediate and alarmed. For a member of the royal family to have direct contact with an alien specimen was not just unprecedented, it was potentially dangerous. Royal protocol existed for good reasons. But as they watched the screen, something remarkable happened. The gorilla slowly moved to the edge of the medical platform and placed one massive hand against the transparent barrier. His eyes never left the camera. He understands, the Queen whispered. He knows someone cares. Dr. HFY reviewed his medical scanners with growing amazement. His neurochemistry is changing. Stress hormones are decreasing, and neural activity in regions associated with hope and curiosity is increasing. I've never seen anything like it. When will his new habitat be ready? The Queen asked. 2 more cycles, Your Majesty. Good. Inform me the moment the transfer is complete. And Doctor? She turned to face him directly. I want you to begin researching Terran communication methods. If I'm going to be spending time with our guest, I want to be able to truly speak with him. As they left the medical bay, Dr. HFY couldn't help but notice that the gorilla had remained by the barrier, hand pressed against the glass long after the communication system had been turned off. For the first time since his capture, there was something like hope in those intelligent dark eyes. The Queen had made her decision, despite the obvious risks and the certain objections from her advisors. She was going to save this creature, not just physically but emotionally. She was going to give him what her own species could never provide: genuine friendship across the vast divide of space and biology. What she didn't yet realize was that in saving him, she might discover something that would change not just her own understanding of humanity, but the entire future of the Vorthak Empire. The transfer to the new habitat took place under the watchful eyes of the entire medical team. Queen Zarathul insisted on being present, despite the protests of her security detail. She watched through the observation deck as the gorilla was carefully moved from the sterile medical bay to his new Earth-like environment. The moment the gorilla's transport container opened into the habitat, something magical happened. He stepped out slowly, his nostrils flaring as he caught the scent of real earth and growing plants for the first time in weeks. His eyes widened as he saw the waterfall, heard the sound of running water, felt the soft soil beneath his feet. Remarkable, whispered Dr. HFY, monitoring the creature's vital signs. His stress levels are dropping dramatically. Look at this. His heart rate has normalized for the first time since capture. The gorilla moved through his new space with growing confidence. He touched the leaves of the carefully cultivated plants, dipped his hand in the stream, and finally sat by the waterfall with something approaching peace on his face. He remembers, the Queen said softly. This reminds him of home. Your Majesty, Dr. HFY said hesitantly. Are you certain about the direct contact protocol? There are so many unknowns. His species' potential for aggression, disease transmission, the political implications if something were to happen to you. Doctor, look at him. She gestured toward the peaceful figure by the water. Does he look dangerous to you? Indeed, the gorilla appeared more contemplative than threatening. He had picked up a small stone and was examining it carefully, turning it over in his massive hands with surprising gentleness. I've been studying Terran behavioral patterns, the Queen continued. Gorillas are actually quite peaceful creatures. They use displays of strength to avoid actual violence. Their intelligence is far greater than we initially calculated. She had spent the past several cycles immersed in the collected data about Earth and its inhabitants. What she had learned had both fascinated and humbled her. Humans and their primate cousins possessed something that seemed rare in the galaxy, a capacity for both individual creativity and deep emotional bonds. I want to go in, the Queen announced. The reaction was immediate and panicked. Security Chief Naxtor's forearms gestured wildly. Absolutely not, Your Majesty. The risks are manageable. Dr. Hixnar, what precautions would you recommend? The elderly scientist was clearly torn between his professional caution and his scientific curiosity. Environmental suits for biological protection, emergency extraction protocols. And perhaps we should start with the communication system rather than direct contact. Agreed. Establish the connection. The communication system activated, and once again the gorilla looked up at the speakers with immediate attention. It was becoming clear that he had learned to associate that particular sound with the Queen's voice. Hello, my friend, the Queen said gently. Do you like your new home? The gorilla stood and approached the speakers, then did something unexpected. He began to gesture, slow, deliberate movements with his hands that seemed almost like sign language. Dr. Hixnar was frantically scanning his database. Your Majesty, I believe he's attempting to communicate using a structured gesture system. According to Terran records, some gorillas have been taught human sign language. Can you translate? Working on it. The database shows this gesture means thank you. And this one, friend. A thrill of excitement ran through the Queen. He was trying to communicate with her. The supposedly primitive creature was making a deliberate effort to bridge the communication gap. Tell him you're welcome, the Queen instructed. Dr. Hixnar consulted his rapidly updating translation system and provided the appropriate gestures. Through the speakers, he explained to the Queen how to move her hands. When the Queen made the gestures in front of the camera, the gorilla's reaction was immediate and profound. He touched his chest, then extended his hand toward the camera, a gesture that even without translation clearly meant connection, recognition, friendship. He understands, the Queen breathed. He knows we're trying to talk to him. Over the next several hours, they established a basic communication protocol. The gorilla demonstrated a vocabulary of over 50 signs and showed remarkable patience in teaching them to his alien audience. He would make a gesture, wait for them to attempt it, then either nod approval or gently correct their form. More impressive still was his emotional intelligence. When Dr. Hixnar struggled with a particularly complex sign, the gorilla moved closer to the camera and repeated the gesture more slowly, with what could only be described as encouraging body language. Your Majesty, Dr. Hixnar said, his voice filled with wonder. This creature is demonstrating teaching behavior. He's deliberately modifying his communication style to accommodate our learning curve. What does that tell us? That his intelligence is far more sophisticated than we believed. He's not just communicating, he's actively trying to build a relationship with beings he knows are completely alien to him. The Queen watched as the gorilla carefully arranged some of the stones from his habitat into patterns. When he finished, he gestured to the camera and signed something that translated roughly to gift for friend. He's made us a present, Dr. Hixnar said, clearly moved. Despite everything he's been through, capture, injury, isolation, he's trying to give us something. That evening, after the scientific staff had departed, Queen Zarathul remained in the observation deck. The habitat's lighting had been dimmed to simulate Earth's day-night cycle, and the gorilla had built himself a nest of soft vegetation near the waterfall. But he wasn't sleeping. Instead, he sat quietly, occasionally looking up at the observation window. Somehow, despite the one-way glass, he seemed to know she was there. Computer, the Queen said quietly. Activate private communication channel. Hello, she said into the system. Are you awake? The gorilla looked up immediately and signed something. He says, waiting for friend, the computer translated. He was waiting for me, the Queen realized. Even though he can't see me, he knew I would come back. She spent the next hour simply talking to him. She told him about her world, her responsibilities, her loneliness as someone who carried the weight of an empire. She wasn't sure how much he understood beyond the basic signs they had established, but he listened with remarkable attention. When she finally said goodnight, he signed back sweet dreams, friend, and settled into his nest. As Queen Zarathul walked back to her private quarters, she realized that something fundamental had changed. For the first time in her long life, she had encountered a being who seemed to understand her not as a queen, but simply as another conscious creature seeking connection. Tomorrow, she decided she would take the next step. Protocol or no protocol, she was going to meet her friend face to face. The palace was in an uproar. When Queen Zarathul announced her intention to enter the habitat personally, her entire council erupted in protest that echoed through the royal chambers. "Your Majesty, this is madness," declared Prime Minister Volkar, his crystalline horns flashing with agitation. "You are the ruler of 17 star systems. You cannot risk yourself for one alien creature." The political ramifications alone, added Foreign Secretary Kirleth. "Should something happen to you, it could destabilize the entire region. The hegemony of Krex has been looking for any sign of weakness in our leadership." Queen Zarathul sat on her throne, listening to their concerns with the patience of someone who had already made up her mind. Around her, the greatest minds of the Vorthak Empire presented logical argument after logical argument for why her decision was impossible. "Have you all finished?" she asked when the chamber finally fell silent. "Your Majesty," Dr. Hixnar said carefully, "perhaps we could compromise. Enhanced communication systems, remote interaction protocols. Doctor, yesterday our guest created art for us. Stones arranged in patterns that had no practical purpose beyond beauty. He has shown creativity, empathy, and friendship to beings who took him from his world by force. Are we so advanced that we cannot show the same courage he displays every day?" She stood, her full height commanding attention from every member of the council. "I have made my decision. Dr. Hixnar, prepare the environmental suits and safety protocols. I enter the habitat tomorrow." The medical preparation took most of the night. Dr. Hixnar had designed a bio-containment suit that would protect both the Queen and their guest from potential biological hazards while allowing for natural movement and clear communication. The habitat was equipped with emergency extraction systems, and a full medical team would be standing by. "The suit's communication array will translate in real time," Dr. Hixnar explained as technicians made final adjustments. "You'll be able to speak normally, and he'll hear it in translated sign language through visual displays. His signs will be translated to your language immediately." "What about his current condition?" the Queen asked. "Remarkably improved. His physical injuries have healed completely, and his psychological markers are approaching what we would consider normal for his species. Your daily communications have had an extraordinary therapeutic effect." Queen Zarathul felt a flutter of nervousness as she approached the habitat entrance. Through the observation window, she could see the gorilla sitting by his waterfall, apparently grooming himself. Dr. Hixnar had explained that this was a sign of psychological health in his species. Attention to personal care indicated hope and self-respect. "He doesn't know I'm coming," she said. "We thought it best to make it a surprise. According to Terran behavioral studies, positive surprises can strengthen social bonds." The entrance to the habitat cycled open, and Queen Zarathul stepped into what was essentially a piece of earth. The air smelled of growing plants and clean water. Bird songs played softly from hidden speakers, another touch Dr. Hixnar had added to make the environment more authentic. The gorilla looked up from his grooming and froze. For a moment they simply stared at each other across the small meadow. Then slowly the gorilla stood and began to approach. "Hello, my friend," the Queen said, her voice slightly distorted by the suit's communication system. The translation appeared on a small screen attached to a nearby tree, showing the Queen's words in sign language. But the gorilla barely glanced at it. Instead, he moved closer, his eyes fixed on her face. When he was about 10 feet away, he stopped and signed something. "He says, 'Queen friend is real.'" Thus came the translation in her earpiece. "I'm real," she confirmed, "and I'm very happy to meet you." The gorilla signed something else, more complex this time. He says, "Lonely heart gets better when friend comes. Thank you for making pain go away." Queen Zarathul felt her chest tighten with unexpected emotion. This being, this supposedly primitive creature, had just expressed gratitude not just for his improved physical condition, but for emotional healing. "What is your name?" she asked. The gorilla made a gesture that didn't translate immediately. Then he moved to his stone arrangement and pointed to a particular pattern, a rough circle surrounded by smaller stones. "I believe he's indicating his name through the pattern." Dr. HFYStories' voice came through her earpiece, the central stone surrounded by others, perhaps indicating his role as a protector or leader. The queen studied the pattern, then had an inspiration. "Family," she said aloud. "You were protecting your family when we took you." The gorilla's eyes widened and he signed rapidly. He says, "Yes. Always protect family. Miss Family. Worry about family." The queen felt a deep sadness settle over her. Of course he was worried about his family. They had taken the alpha male, the protector, away from his group. His family was probably struggling to survive without him. "I understand," she said gently. "Family is important." The gorilla approached closer until he was only a few feet away. Up close, she could see the intelligence in his eyes, the careful way he moved to avoid seeming threatening. He gestured to himself, then to her, then made a sign that seemed to encompass both of them. "He says we are family now," came the translation. Queen Zarathul felt tears form in her eyes. Here was a being who had lost everything, been taken from his world by force, suffered injury and isolation, and he was offering to include her in his concept of family. "Yes," she whispered. "We are family." The gorilla's face changed in what she recognized as a smile. He reached into his collection of stones and selected one, a smooth dark rock about the size of her palm. He held it out to her. "Gift for new family," the translation said. As Queen Zarathul accepted the stone through her suit's manipulation field, she realized that this simple exchange had changed her forever. This creature had shown her something that all her education, all her royal training, all her exposure to the greatest minds in the galaxy had failed to teach her. True nobility wasn't about power or position. It was about the capacity to show kindness to those who couldn't help you in return. It was about choosing hope over despair, connection over isolation, love over fear. "Thank you," she said, holding the stone carefully. "I will treasure this always." The gorilla nodded, then did something that surprised everyone watching. He lay down on the grass nearby, not in submission but in relaxed comfort. It was a gesture of complete trust, showing his vulnerability to a being he had every reason to fear. Queen Zarathul sat down as well, as gracefully as her environmental suit would allow. Together they listened to the artificial birds singing in their artificial forest. Two beings from different worlds who had found something precious in each other. Neither of them knew that their friendship was about to uncover secrets that would shake the foundations of everything the Vorthak Empire thought they knew about Earth and its inhabitants. 3 weeks had passed since the Queen's first direct contact with the gorilla, who she had begun calling Koba, a name that seemed to resonate with him when she suggested it. Their daily meetings had become the highlight of both their routines, and an unexpected transformation was taking place not just in Koba, but in the Queen herself, Your Majesty. "The behavioral changes are remarkable," Dr. HFYStories reported during their morning briefing. "Koba has begun creating increasingly complex art installations. Look at this." The display showed Koba's latest creation, stones, branches, and flowers arranged in an intricate pattern that seemed to depict the solar system. At the center was a large stone representing the star, with smaller stones in orbital patterns around it. But most remarkably, he had placed tiny flowers at specific points that exactly matched the positions of inhabited planets. He couldn't possibly know about the other inhabited worlds in this system, Dr. HFYStories said, puzzled. "We've never shown him star charts or astronomical data." Queen Zarathul studied the pattern with growing amazement. "Unless he's not just intelligent, he's intuitive. Some species develop enhanced pattern recognition when they form strong emotional bonds." "There's something else, Your Majesty. Watch this." The recording showed Koba from the previous evening after the Queen had left. He was moving through his habitat, but instead of his usual peaceful behavior, he seemed agitated. He kept looking toward the ceiling and making urgent signs. He was trying to warn us about something, Dr. Hicksnar explained. At first we thought it was just anxiety, but then we checked our sensors. He was detecting a microfracture in the habitat's containment field, 12 hours before our instruments picked it up. He sensed structural damage that our technology missed? It appears so. His species evolved on a tectonically active planet. They may have developed sensitivities to subtle environmental changes that our sensors can't detect. Queen Zarathul felt a chill run through her. If Koba was this sensitive to environmental changes, what else might he be detecting that they were missing? Her question was answered that afternoon during their daily visit. The moment she entered the habitat, Koba approached her with obvious urgency. His signs were rapid and complex, filled with concepts that pushed the limits of their translation system. He says, "Danger comes from sky. Friends not safe. Must protect Queen family," the translation came through. Danger from sky. Queen Zarathul looked up through the transparent dome of the habitat, but saw only the familiar starfield. What kind of danger? Koba gestured toward the wall display that showed the space around their research station. He pointed to a specific area of seemingly empty space and signed urgently. He says, "Ships hide in dark place. Bad feelings from that direction." Dr. Hicksnar's voice came through the communication system from the observation deck. "Your Majesty, there's nothing on our sensors in that quadrant. Deep space is completely clear." But Queen Zarathul had learned to trust Koba's instincts. "Run a full-spectrum analysis of that sector. Use every scanning technology we have. Your Majesty, our sensors are the most advanced in the galaxy. If there was something there. Doctor, 3 weeks ago you told me this creature was dying and worthless. Now he's detecting structural problems in our equipment before our own systems can run the scans." The analysis took several hours, during which Queen Zarathul remained in the habitat with Koba. He grew increasingly agitated as time passed, repeatedly pointing toward the same area of space and making protective gestures toward her. Finally, Dr. Hicksnar's voice returned, filled with shock and fear. "Your Majesty, you need to return to the observation deck immediately. We found something." "What is it?" "A Krek stealth fleet. 12 dreadnoughts using advanced cloaking technology. They're positioned for an attack run on the research station." Queen Zarathul felt her blood turn cold. The hegemony of Kreks had been their enemies for centuries, constantly probing for weaknesses in Vorthak territory. A research station would be a perfect target, isolated, lightly defended, and containing valuable scientific data. "How long until they can reach us?" she asked. "At their current approach vector, approximately 6 hours. Your Majesty, we need to evacuate immediately." But as Queen Zarathul looked at Koba, she saw something in his eyes that stopped her cold. He wasn't finished. He was trying to tell her something else. "What is it?" she asked him gently. Koba moved to his stone arrangements and began rapidly creating a new pattern. This one showed the research station in the center, surrounded by 12 threatening shapes representing the Krek ships. But then he added something else, smaller stones arranged in formation approaching from a different direction. He says, "Earth friends come to help," the translation said. "Earth friends?" Queen Zarathul stared at the pattern. "You mean there are humans coming?" Koba nodded vigorously and signed something complex. He says, "Earth protects family. Humans find lost family member. Humans very angry about family taken." The implications hit Queen Zarathul like a physical blow. Somehow Earth had detected the capture of Koba and was sending a rescue mission. But how could a planet that had barely achieved interstellar flight possibly mount a rescue operation across such vast distances? "Dr. Hicksnar, expand the sensor sweep. Look for any other vessels approaching our position." "Your Majesty, even if the Terrans have developed faster than light travel, their technology should be centuries behind ours. They couldn't possibly." His voice cut off abruptly. When it returned, it was filled with disbelief. "Your Majesty, there are 4 vessels approaching from the Earth vector. But the energy signatures, these aren't primitive ships. The propulsion systems are unlike anything in our databases. Hostile, unknown. They're not responding to communication attempts, but they're not powering weapons either. They appear to be waiting." Queen Zarathul looked at Koba, who was watching her with those intelligent eyes. "You knew they were coming for you." Koba signed something that made her heart ache. He says, "Humans never abandon family. Would cross galaxy to save one child." At that moment, Queen Zarathul realized that everything the Vorthak Empire thought they knew about Earth was wrong. They had dismissed humans as primitives, barely worthy of study, but a species that would mount an interstellar rescue mission for a single gorilla, a different species, entirely, was demonstrating something that the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had forgotten. They were about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their numbers. It was their refusal to abandon anyone they considered family, no matter how impossible the odds or how vast the distances involved. And now, caught between a Krex attack fleet and human ships with unknown capabilities, Queen Zarathul and her research station were about to become the focal point of an incident that would reshape the entire galactic order. The communications array crackled to life with an incoming transmission from the unknown human vessels. Queen Zarathul rushed to the command center, leaving Koba under the watch of her personal guards, a decision that felt like abandoning family, but one that protocol demanded. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Diplomatic Corps vessel Unity," came a voice speaking flawless Vorthak. "We are requesting immediate communication with whoever is responsible for the capture and detention of the mountain gorilla, known as Marcus." Dr. HFYStories' 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Your Majesty, they know his real name. They've been tracking him specifically." "Respond," Queen Zarathul commanded. "This is Queen Zarathul of the Vorthak Empire. I am personally responsible for the individual you seek." There was a pause before Captain Chen's voice returned, this time with a note of surprise. "Your Majesty, we appreciate your direct communication. We have been monitoring the situation and are aware of the Krex fleet currently moving to attack your position. We have a proposal." "I'm listening." "Our sensors indicate that Marcus, the gorilla, is alive and appears to be in good health. We also detect that your station is in immediate danger. We propose a temporary alliance. Allow us to retrieve our family member, and we will assist in defending your research station from the Krex attack." Queen Zarathul felt her heart constrict. They were calling Koba family. A species she had never heard of just days ago was willing to fight an interstellar war for a single gorilla. "Captain Chen, may I ask how Earth was able to detect and track the capture of one individual across such vast distances?" "Your Majesty, every gorilla on Earth carries a quantum-entangled biomarker as part of our conservation efforts. When Marcus was taken off planet, every human knew about it within hours. The Unity and her escorts have been traveling for 3 weeks to reach this position." 3 weeks. They had been traveling since the day after Koba's capture, long before Queen Zarathul had even begun to care about his welfare. "Your Majesty," Dr. HFYStories whispered urgently, "the Krex fleet has accelerated. Impact in 4 hours. Captain Chen, what capabilities do your vessels possess?" "The Krex fleet consists of 12 dreadnoughts with advanced weaponry. We are aware of their specifications, Your Majesty. May I suggest that we discuss details after Marcus is safely aboard our ship? We have medical teams standing by to evaluate his condition." Queen Zarathul closed her eyes, feeling the weight of an impossible decision. Everything logical said she should immediately transfer Koba to the humans and accept their protection. But the thought of losing her friend, her family member, felt like tearing out her own heart. "Your Majesty," came a new voice on the communication channel. "This is Dr. James Patterson, Earth's chief xenobiologist. We've been monitoring the biotelemetry from Marcus's implant. We want you to know that his health markers have improved dramatically over the past 3 weeks. His psychological profile indicates the formation of strong social bonds. We're grateful for the care he's received." The admission that Earth had been monitoring Koba's condition remotely sent chills through the Vorthak command staff. Their technology was far more advanced than anyone had realized. "Dr. Patterson," Queen Zarathul said carefully, "your Marcus has become very important to me personally. I would like to request visitation rights if possible. Your Majesty, based on Marcus's bio-readings and behavioral analysis, we believe he's formed what humans call a family bond with you. Such bonds are permanent among our species. If you're willing, we would be honored to establish formal relations between our peoples." Before Queen Zarathul could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the station. The Krex fleet had dropped their cloaking and was powering weapons. "Your Majesty," Captain Chen's voice cut through the chaos. "We need your decision now. Transfer Marcus to our ship and we'll handle the Krex problem." "Transfer authorized," Queen Zarathul said, her voice breaking slightly. "Dock with Bay 7. Your Majesty, Dr. Patterson's voice came through again. Marcus's bio readings indicate severe distress. May we suggest that you accompany him during the transfer? His psychological stability appears to be directly linked to your presence. Queen Zarathul didn't hesitate. Prepare my environmental suit. I'm going with him. The transfer took place under emergency conditions, with the Krex fleet approaching rapidly. Queen Zarathul, still in her biocontainment suit, accompanied Koba through the docking tube to the human vessel. The interior of the Unity was unlike anything she had expected. Instead of the sterile efficiency of Vorthak ships, the human vessel felt warm, organic, lived in. The walls were curved rather than angular, and soft lighting created an atmosphere of comfort rather than clinical precision. Your Majesty, Captain Chen greeted her personally, a woman with kind eyes and graying hair who moved with quiet confidence. Welcome aboard the Unity. Marcus, welcome home. Koba's reaction to seeing other humans was immediate and profound. He began vocalizing, not the quiet signs he used with Queen Zarathul, but deep, emotional sounds that spoke of recognition and relief. Dr. Patterson, a tall man with gentle hands, approached slowly and began communicating with Koba in sign language that was far more sophisticated than their basic translation system had provided. He's telling Dr. Patterson about you, Captain Chen explained. He's very concerned that you might be in danger from the approaching ships. The Krex fleet, Queen Zarathul began, is about to learn why humanity has survived every extinction event our planet has thrown at us, Captain Chen said with a smile that was both warm and terrifying. Your Majesty, you might want to watch this from our observation deck. As they moved through the ship, Queen Zarathul was amazed by what she saw. The crew was diverse not just in appearance but in species. She spotted what appeared to be uplifted dolphins in specialized mobility tanks, enhanced chimpanzees working alongside humans, and even what looked like a very intelligent dog wearing some kind of translation device. Your crew is diverse, she observed. Family comes in many forms, Captain Chen replied. We learned a long time ago that intelligence and loyalty aren't limited to one species. They reached the observation deck just as the human ships moved to engage the Krex fleet. What Queen Zarathul witnessed changed her understanding of warfare forever. The human ships didn't rely on superior firepower or heavier armor. Instead, they moved like living things, coordinating with a precision that suggested telepathic communication. They used the asteroid field around the research station not as obstacles to avoid, but as weapons to redirect. Most remarkably, they seemed to anticipate every Krex tactical decision before it was made. How are you predicting their movements so accurately? Queen Zarathul asked. Captain Chen gestured to a crew member who appeared to be a modified octopus operating multiple control stations simultaneously. Diversity of thought, Your Majesty. 8 different types of intelligence working together can outthink any single species, no matter how advanced. The battle lasted less than 20 minutes. The Krex fleet, completely outmaneuvered and unable to adapt to the humans' unconventional tactics, retreated in disorder. Your Majesty, Dr. Patterson approached with Koba close behind. Marcus has made a request. He wants to know if you would consider visiting Earth. He's very worried about you remaining alone on the research station. Queen Zarathul looked at her friend, seeing the concern in his eyes. He's inviting me to his world? He's inviting you to join his family, Captain Chen corrected, which in human terms is the highest honor we can offer. As Queen Zarathul considered the offer, she realized that her encounter with one supposedly primitive gorilla had led her to discover the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, one that measured advancement not by technology, but by the depth of their capacity to care for others. 6 months later, Queen Zarathul stood in the mountain forests of Rwanda, watching Koba reunite with his family group. The moment when his mate and children recognized him was something that would stay with her forever. Pure joy expressed through gentle touches, soft vocalizations, and the kind of emotional intimacy that transcended species barriers. He's telling them about you, Dr. Patterson said, standing beside her in the warm earth sunlight. He's explaining that you're the one who saved him. Indeed, Koba was gesturing toward Queen Zarathul, and the other gorillas were watching her with what appeared to be respectful curiosity rather than fear. His youngest offspring, a playful female named Kessie, had even approached to offer the queen a handful of berries, a gesture that Dr. Patterson explained was significant among gorillas. "Your Majesty, Captain." Chen approached through the forest with news that would change everything. "We've received communications from 17 different species across the galaxy. They're all requesting diplomatic contact with Earth." "Because of the Krex incident?" Queen Zarathul asked. "Because of what the Krex survivors reported," Dr. Patterson corrected. "They told everyone that humans mounted an interstellar rescue mission for a single gorilla. That level of commitment to protecting family members has impressed species who thought they were the pinnacle of galactic civilization." Queen Zarathul nodded, understanding completely. In the months since arriving on Earth, she had learned that humanity's approach to advancement was fundamentally different from every other species in the galaxy. While others focused on technological superiority or territorial expansion, humans had chosen to evolve emotionally and socially. "The Gorilla Embassy project is ready for your approval," Captain Chen continued. "If you agree to serve as Earth's first xenobiological ambassador, you would be based here in Rwanda, working directly with the gorilla families to develop interspecies communication protocols." It was an offer that would have been unthinkable 6 months ago. A Vorthak queen serving as an ambassador to a supposedly primitive planet. But Queen Zarathul had discovered something on Earth that her empire, for all its advanced technology, had never achieved: a society where every individual mattered, where family bonds transcended biological boundaries, and where strength was measured by the willingness to protect others rather than dominate them. "Your Majesty," Dr. Patterson added gently, "there's something else you should know. The other specimens we took from Earth, all the creatures in your research station, they've been returned to their natural habitats. But more importantly, the technology we've shared with your people has already begun to transform your empire." "How so?" "The emotional bonding protocols we've taught your scientists are being implemented across Vorthak society. Reports indicate a dramatic decrease in mental health issues, improved productivity, and the first recorded instances of interspecies cooperation in your empire's history." Queen Zarathul smiled, remembering her own transformation. When she had first encountered Koba, she had been a ruler isolated by protocol and position. Now, surrounded by his family group in the forests of Earth, she felt more connected to life than she ever had in her crystalline palace. Koba approached her and signed something that made her heart warm. He says, "Queen Mother stays with family forever?" Dr. Patterson translated. Queen Zarathul knelt down to Koba's eye level and signed back in the sophisticated sign language she had learned during her months on Earth. "Family stays together always." Koba's response was to gently take her hand and place it on his chest over his heart. Then he guided her hand to touch the heads of each of his children, formally introducing her to his family group as an honorary member. "Your Majesty," Captain Chen said softly, "we've prepared a formal residence for you near the research station. You would have full diplomatic immunity, access to our communication networks to maintain contact with your empire, and most importantly, you'd be able to visit Koba's family daily." Queen Zarathul looked around at the lush forest, listened to the sounds of Earth's incredible biodiversity, and felt the gentle presence of beings who had accepted her not because of her royal status, but because someone they loved had vouched for her character. "I accept," she said, and felt a weight she hadn't realized she was carrying lift from her shoulders. The ceremony that evening was unlike anything in galactic diplomatic history. Representatives from multiple species attended via holographic projection as Queen Zarathul formally accepted her position as the first xenobiological ambassador to Earth. But the most important moment came when Koba himself participated in the ceremony, signing his approval of the appointment in front of representatives from across the galaxy. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic relations," Dr. Patterson announced to the assembled dignitaries. "We are establishing the Interspecies Family Protection Accord, based on the principle that any being capable of forming emotional bonds deserves protection and respect, regardless of their species of origin or technological level." Queen Zarathul watched as species after species signed on to the accord. The hegemony of Krex, still recovering from their defeat, were among the first to agree. Even they had recognized that humanity's approach to galactic relations based on emotional intelligence, rather than military might, represented the future. As the formal proceedings concluded, and the various delegates signed off their holographic connections, Queen Zarathul found herself alone with Koba's family group in the forest clearing. The gorillas had built her a comfortable nest of soft vegetation nearby, making it clear that she was welcome to stay. "Marcus has a question for you," Dr. Patterson said. Approaching with his translation device, Koba signed something complex, his expression serious. "He wants to know if you're happy. He says he was worried that bringing you to Earth meant taking you away from your own family." Queen Zarathul felt tears form in her eyes as she realized the depth of Koba's empathy. Even after everything he had been through, he was concerned about her well-being. "Tell him," she said, "that I've learned something important. Family isn't just about biology or species. It's about choosing to care for others, even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult." As Koba listened to the translation, his face lit up with understanding. He gathered his mate and children around him, then gestured for Queen Zarathul to join them. Together they sat in the fading light of Earth's sun, a family group that would have been impossible to imagine just months before. Looking up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky, Queen Zarathul thought about the research station where this all began. Her scientists had intended to study Earth's creatures as specimens. Instead, they had discovered that the true measure of a civilization wasn't its technology or its territory. It was its willingness to cross any distance, overcome any obstacle, and face any danger to protect those it considered family. And now, as the first xenobiological ambassador to Earth, Queen Zarathul would help spread that understanding throughout the galaxy, ensuring that no being would ever again be abandoned or ignored simply because they were different, distant, or deemed unimportant by those in power. The alien queens infected, Hurt Gorilla had taught the galaxy its most important lesson: that love, loyalty, and family bonds are the true foundations of any advanced civilization, and sometimes the most profound discoveries come from the connections we make with those everyone else has given up on.